Hey guys, so this video is going to take the place of the Maggie Murphy Manifestation Monday Mailbag Marathon. There's two comments that I wanted to reply to that just came in like yesterday. Sorry, there's some other ones back there. Anyway, I wanted to read these comments and reply to them because they kind of go hand in, or they do go hand in hand. And I have some things to say about this. So I'm going to read the first comment. What if I desire a certain circumstance for myself and it has multiple aspects I'd like to be true, but I feel like it's too detailed and unrealistic for it to happen? I'd like to work in a certain industry under certain conditions that at the moment aren't the norm. I'd like high-end housing. It is normal to be provided housing, usually under not very preferable conditions, a fair contract, nice coworkers, and a balanced work-life schedule, as well as, of course, be very successful in what I do. To not get more detailed than this, I'd like a lot of benefits. I know I want this, but I can't get over how unrealistic my conditions are. I often think about how if I'd share this with someone working in that industry, they'd laugh in my face. It is incredibly rare for someone working there to have all of those things at once and from the beginning. This is the only area and desire in my life where I feel discouraged and a bit embarrassed. So my first comment about this is I have one thing that is just, think about this. You can take this advice or not, and this could just totally be me. The one thing about this that I didn't like is from the beginning, because I think when you put a time limit on something, which is what that is, like this must happen immediately, I think that adds, for many people, pressure onto something that doesn't need to be there. Like, do you really need that to be there, like from day one? If you do, if that's what you really want, and or that idea doesn't make it seem more unrealistic to you. Like, the idea I think here is to obviously your problem is that it seems unrealistic. And so I think what's beneficial here is to try to get this to seem more realistic, or to make it seem less unlikely. So I don't know, for me personally, time limits on things are just a killer. I never ever do it. It's like it stresses me out. I hate deadlines. So that might just be me. Maybe some people really thrive with deadlines. So if that's you, just disregard this part. I don't like deadlines. It makes me feel anxious and stressed out. I just hate it. So I don't know if that one's really important to you, then okay. But really the overall thing with this comment is that you're viewing this manifestation from the plane of scarcity. You're viewing it from right here down on the ground in the world. And in the world, there are finite resources. There are odds that aren't in your favor. Scarcity, basically. It's a zero-sum game. If you get something, someone else doesn't get something. That's what's happening down here. Where you're creating your manifestation from, when you're in the role of the creator, is from the realm of creativity, no scarcity, where it's infinite resources, where the odds are totally irrelevant. And I can tell you the odds are totally irrelevant. I've never personally seen resources be created out of thin air because there weren't enough, but I've seen things happen that just the odds are ridiculous. So I think this is really simple. It's not a big, complicated solution to this problem that you're having. It's coming to when you're in that feeling of scarcity, and it's a specific scarcity is a specific feeling produced by your thoughts, obviously. But when you start to consider the odds, you just have to stop and notice that you're feeling scarcity and sort of breathe a sigh of relief and remind yourself that there's enough for everybody. The odds are irrelevant. Infinite resources. Infinite. This whole thing is being created from, as Wallace Wattles puts it, formless substance, the thinking stuff of the universe. And maybe now we kind of know that this is energy, or I don't know. I'm not sure how far we've come in our understanding as a people about what that thinking stuff actually is, but he says that an image held long enough and strong enough will impress thinking substance, and thinking substance is compelled to model that thing in the 3D world. So stop anytime you're having these thoughts about how unlikely it is, and elevate yourself. Maybe even imagine yourself like floating up to a cloud, whatever you've got to do to get out of that space, and remind yourself that you're creating from the creative plane. There's enough for everyone. And you don't have to think about it beyond that. And honestly, thinking about it beyond that is an exercise in futility, because you can easily come up with your mundane world point of view to, you can easily come up with a perspective that supports scarcity. What you can't do, is experientially, generally, come up with something that supports infinite resources, because that's kind of the realm of the divine, and we don't have direct access generally to the understanding of that. But imagine how powerful and all-seeing and all-knowing you, God, the universe, whatever it is, that all those things are the same thing. Imagine how powerful that force has to be in order to weave together this thing happening here. I don't think people stop and think about this. It's mind-blowing. It's just mind-blowing how perfect everything comes together. That thing is perfectly capable of providing you with your ideal situation. And the other thing I wanted to say about this that I think is useful, it's useful for me to think about. Is there any way from where you are right now to this end situation that you can come up with? Or I should say, come up with a way from where you are right now to this end circumstance. Make it up. Make up a story. Make up a story for how this goes down. I don't know what all goes into this. Okay, so, there are people in charge of hiring you and placing you and getting you into housing. And I assume this really all comes down to people. So make up a story about how this happens. So you have a concrete idea in your mind of one way that this could happen, no matter how fantastical you think it is. Maybe don't make it fantastical, don't get hit by a bus in the middle of it and the bus driver is like somebody's sister. Just make up a scenario where you go in for your interview or whatever, or you go in to be placed somewhere and you really have a good rapport with the person, and they ask you, so what would this what would the situation here look like ideally for you? And you tell them this or something. This sounds like maybe somebody from another country or culture. So I don't know, you'd have to mold this to your own personal life situation, but come up with a way that this happens. One specific set of events that gets you to this end goal. And now in your mind, you've created a path. Don't get attached to that path, but you have just created a path. You've created a way that this could happen. Now think about that final outcome that you want. And now you know that all it takes to get from here to there is a series of events, and you've already imagined one of them. It's probably almost definitely not going to go down the way you've imagined. But it exists. A path that can and will happen exists. You need to get, I think, more solid in the fact that the way there exists, because that's I think the confusion here. A way to this thing exists. Am I going to align myself in the right way that I fall onto that path? Think of it as a timeline. Think of it as like a million different timelines you could be choosing, and you're choosing it with your energy and your thought and your feeling and everything. There's a bunch of paths to this thing I want. Am I going to grasp onto one of those and go down that road? I don't know. That's the best I can do for telling you how to think about this situation. That really helps me to understand that the path to something that seems completely unlikely absolutely exists. you know? Like, I hate to use a specific person example for this, but I think that's a really good thing. It's like, if you have somebody who you want to be with, I shouldn't even be saying this because I hate the specific person stuff, but if you have a person that you want and they don't want you, and there's like some, major seeming obstacle in the way, there are like a million ways you could go around that thing. It's just a matter of, are you going to? If I edited my videos, I would edit that out because I don't want to embolden this SP crowd. But when it comes to like people, especially, those don't even seem hard to me. Like the situation that the commenter is describing with like wanting this ideal work thing, I can see why that seems daunting, and why it would be challenging to, orchestrate yourself correctly, orient yourself correctly towards that thing. It could be, there's a bunch of little mental hurdles there. But when it comes to like somebody's feelings change all the freaking time. Like, if you're worried about somebody doesn't have the right feelings, like, just get over it, because it's not even that hard if you think about it. Anyway, gosh, sometimes I really wish I didn't say things on here, but whatever. Okay, and the other comment I wanted to address was, hi Maggie, could you make a video to clarify this point? How can you be certain that you will get something and at the same time let it go and be okay with it? Well, my response to that is, the certainty is more of a feeling and less of something pegged to a specific outcome. So if you have a general sense of certainty and knowing, I think this one is sort of more fundamental. And it sort of, I think it changes when you change your idea of what desires are. Learning to discern between what a real desire is and what is sort of like a projection, which I guess you could still call it a desire. Sometimes a desire exists as a gift to you to help you work something out with yourself. Like a desire for a specific person is often that, I think. It's often projecting an unhealed part of you onto somebody else, and you feel it as desire because you want this thing to be fulfilled, and you think you're going to get it fulfilled from another person. And so that's how that's how it's perceived. And by the way, I want to, when I say unhealed, I mean your thoughts and feelings about something about yourself are false. You were programmed in a way that is not ideal. It's not correct. And so it produces this void or this longing or this dissatisfaction or sadness or some emotion like that gets projected out onto another person. This person can fix this thing for me. Like, I don't feel lovable, and this person will love me and fix that. When I don't feel lovable there's the problem. It's just that. There's nothing more than that. It's like, it gets projected out and you try to fix it in the outer world. I think when you learn to discern between that type of a thing and other desires that come up, I personally, the desires that come up that aren't just for you to work something out, in my opinion, those always get fulfilled. It's like it's meant to be. In fact, the feeling of the desire, or like just that your awareness suddenly shifts onto something and you feel like a pull to that thing, that to me is more like a warning of what is coming. So you don't even have to worry about if that stuff's going to get fulfilled. It certainly will. And the only thing that can stop it is you interfering or interjecting or having self-concept issues, I guess, that prevent that thing from coming to fruition. So if you start to get really familiar with those two things, you'll be able to tell the difference between the two. And then it's like you're just certain all the time, because you're certain that when you flip the light switch, the light comes on. You know what I mean? It's the same type of thing. To use a bad example, but I think the way you are certain that you will get something at the same time let it go and be okay without it is you get used to this process And you know that the sooner you let that thing go, not even let it go, the sooner you stop like fixating on a desire and giving it any kind of energy of this might not happen or maybe I won't be fulfilled. Like when you get really good at not doing that, the desire comes up and you go, oh, you think about it. Okay, cool. That's going to happen. And it's just gone. And you're certain because you're certain, because that's just your orientation towards desire and what that is and what it means. And I think the next commenter, somebody replied to this comment and said, my point of view, it's about understanding that you're literally okay moment to moment. That's, I think, it's just the desires that come up that are there to help you work something out about yourself. If you actually take those opportunities and improve the things about yourself that aren't working, then you're okay most of the time. You just don't have desires, for things that you're not okay without because you're okay, I think, this is a lot. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that I have been mentally focused on and working on for 30 years right now. Like, this isn't just like poof. If you can grasp onto some of this stuff and start to make it work for you right away, do it. Like, some people are going to be naturals in some of these areas. Some people are just going to like not have any problems getting that. Like, somebody might hear that, what I just explained, and it could change their entire view on it forever. And like a whole bunch of work they might have had to do otherwise is gone because they were just able to grasp this concept right now. And, they're naturally tuned in a way that there's not much standing in the way of just kind of like free flow into these things in the future. Other people, you might have to, get pieces of this. It took me a long time to accept that some of the things I saw as desires that like I would die without, it took a long time for me to get to the point where I realized that was about me. And I can't tell you how freeing it was to be rid of that, to the point that, for me, one of the big ones was like finding the right person. And man, I was so sick of that thing being in my life that when I realized it had nothing to do, like that was not coming from a genuine, there was a bit of a genuine desire there, but most of it was just like this need to be validated as a human. And when I realized I didn't need to do that because my ideas about myself were wrong and they changed, it was just such a relief. And I didn't even know if I wanted that thing anymore. I was so exhausted from it being a thing. So my point being that sometimes you just like can't let it go until you just get so freaking sick of it. And that's okay because, that's what we're here for. That's, it takes the time it takes. If you can speed it up, great. If you can look at yourself, if you can face some hard truths, I just couldn't do it. A lot of that stuff had to do related to my relationship with my dad, and I just did not want to deal with it. It's just like one of those things where I was just like, no, I don't want to deal with it. It's not about that. It's not about that. There are just some things that, you just kind of like feel repulsed by dealing with. And the time will come when you're ready to deal with it. You will, and you'll move on to the next thing. So anyway, I hope that answered that question. There's not like a technique for being certain that you will get something and at the same time letting go and being okay with it. I think the certainty is just something that you develop. You can try to, generate that and increase that. But I think some of that comes with experience. And again, like, are you not okay now? You're okay now. So I don't know. I think focusing on the fact that you're whole and complete without anything else. You were born whole and complete. Every human being that is on this planet is whole and complete. And everybody's running around thinking they need something. Everybody's running around, looking for their other half or missing pieces. They're not missing. They're in you. They're not coming from the outside. You're not going to fulfill it from the outside. And if you do manage to get something that fulfills one of those things for a time, you know, it's inevitable that you end up having that void again, and you just end up having to do it, the work later. It's just prolonging the inevitable if you don't accept this. But that's, again, just one person's perspective, just my opinion. This is my life experience on this channel. It's one person. There are a lot of different roads to, I think, the end goal. And if this stuff is for you, I think you'll know it. And you'll know it because it'll feel good in here. It'll make sense, and it'll shift something a little bit, and you'll know it's for you. And if you're just like, what is this crap? Who's this person that's rambling? Blah, blah, blah. If that's where you're at, then, I mean, leave, please. Anyway, I hope that this helped anybody. I hope this answered the questions for the commenters. I wish there was some, you know, I really wish that these techniques that everybody talks about, you know, my highest view count videos are always about techniques, because it's like, I get the allure. You want a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step thing, when really there's nothing and no one to change but self, and all the rest of it falls into place automatically. I wish that these little things worked really well for most people. I think some of these techniques work really, really well for like a certain subset of people. And then everybody else tries to do it, it doesn't work, and then they get dejected, and then they write the whole thing off when really it's just not your way, you know? Anyway, have a great day.